Back then, in 75 or 76, the Metropolitan and a number of the theaters in the 42nd Street area were being fed a stream of all but amateur work. Appearing in film after film, the actor was an avuncular guy in his late 30s. His screen persona was friendly enough and soft-spoken. Certainly he was not ugly, but he was a little dumpy, and he was distinctly bald. No one would have looked at him twice on the street. The women in the films were equally ordinary, looking and ranged in age from 20 to 40. Myself, I found almost nothing in the films themselves sexually exciting, but the sheer humanity of the figures, suddenly blown up larger than life, naked for all to see, yes, had its own interest. Most characters portrayed in New Hollywood's period during the 1970s and early 1980s were simple, working-class individuals that did not stand out in a crowd. A great example of this is found in the film Sorcerer, where four men across the globe find themselves together in an imaginary country somewhere in South America. Although normal-looking at first glance, these people have exciting personalities and technical traits that allow them to be chosen for the critical task of transporting explosives across the jungle. Just like the people in Samuel R. Delaney's Times Square Red, Times Square Blue, these folks have a humanity that makes them stand out among the ordinary crowd, although not at first glance. It takes the audience a while to comprehend that these four men have a life they've left behind, and that includes their loved ones. But what they brought to this mysterious country is far more important than what they left their home countries in. Passion and technique that will translate to the task at hand. None of these characters are entirely likable. They all have flaws that make them human and real, further driving the point that Samuel Delaney notes in his excerpt. That's what makes this story so great, because the audience can see themselves portrayed in the protagonists without having to leave their hometown in search for a new life. The audience feels the pressure these men have under their shoulders as they cross these rickety bridges and come up with insanely complicated and creative plans to carry out the task at hand. All of this is of course possible thanks to the immense amounts of money that William Friedkin was able to spend after his success at the box office with The French Connection and The Exorcist. The sets were custom built, and they shot on location multiple times, extending thus the budget of the film. This all shows on screen quite remarkably, and it helps the story feel more real, although parts of it are hardly believable, just like the stories shown in the porn films in New York City back in the day. The camera work is at times shaky, trying to portray the difficulties and tensions that these four men are going through, but it is very still and precise whenever something impeccable is about to happen, like in the dynamite scene when they blow up the tree trunk to get by. Just like in Delaney's excerpt, this allows the audience to feel connected to the characters by feeling the pressure when they're under it by virtue of a shaky camera, and by showing the precision in these men's hands by virtue of a still camera. The images in the small town in South America are similar to the images I imagine when reading Delaney's essay and his description of porn theaters in New York City. The village is dirty, and everyone looks to be sweaty and bloody. Its occupants all doing their own thing, and only do they come together when they want to help each other achieve a greater goal. Transport explosives for money, and on the flip side, sexually pleasure one another. To conclude, Samuel R. Delaney's Times Square Red and Times Square Blue connects quite well with a few points and themes that we have discovered throughout the run of this course. During the New Hollywood period, oftentimes successful directors had a lot of money to blow on screen, and these films often failed at the box office. This film's characters were oftentimes working class people, and at first glance don't have much to offer to one another. Only when these characters come together to help one another in one way or another do we see their humanity and raw emotion come alive. That is what makes these films so exciting, and that's why They are such an important part of our film history in this country.